meeting. We do this in lieu of Labor Day. We change a couple of meetings a year to observe Labor Day and 4th of July, and I think there's one more in there that we do. So I thank y'all for being here tonight. Paul Ellis has got a couple of things to present, but tonight he has agreed to deliver our invocation. And Paul, I'm going to ask you to do that, but I'm also going to ask you to ask for a moment of silence for our military that we lost in Afghanistan. And then that'll be followed by Brenda Elks, and then we will go with this meeting here tonight. All those having business with the town of Farmville will be heard. And I'll ask that you rise now when Paul Ellis will deliver our invocation, and Brenda will follow with the pledge.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Let's have a moment of silence. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight with humble hearts, giving thanks for all the blessings you have given each of us. We thank you for the gift of life. We thank you for the opportunity to live in our great town. But most of all, we thank you for sending your Son so that we may have everlasting life. Father, we ask you to bless those in our town that are sick and suffering. Put your healing hand upon them. Bless those that have lost loved ones. Be especially close to them in their time of need. Now, as we enter our time to attend the affairs of our town, we ask for guidance for our elected officials as they make decisions that may affect all of us. May each action taken and word spoken be pleasing in your sight. Lead, guide, and direct us, and we give your name the honor, praise, and the glory for all things. It is in your Son's holy name that we humbly pray. Amen.
Amen. Brenda?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please take your seats. Thanks for being with us tonight. First item of business is citizens' presentation. You'll have 3 minutes. We ask that you give your name and where you live for the record and for the minutes. Also, you'll get 3 minutes. The board will not respond, but we will direct your questions to those, and somebody will get back with you. First, I have my dear friend John Spruill. Sergeant Spruill.
Manager and next, I would like to discuss. I called the town hall about some new garbage cans. My top is broke. I called Waste Industry. They told me he had to call Town Farm to get on the list. So I called, came down here and talked to somebody, and they said they'll handle it. But it's been about 3 weeks, and people getting new garbage cans in my area every day because my tops are broke.
Okay, Brother John, I think I'll pass that off to Wes. Wes, get with you right after this meeting and see if we can address that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Go from there. Next is Miss Annie Tyson Ellis. Miss Ellis, if you come forward, please. Good to see you. Just give us your name and that street address for the record there.
Annie Tyson Ellis, 4390 Wallace Street. All right. I've got some concerns or some questions about pruning of trees in the elderly's area so that they don't have to go through the massive cost of having trees cut down. And the other thing was the overgrowth in some of our areas where homes have been torn down, but the growth that's there is overgrowth, and there are a lot of animals and things that come out. So we need to know what we can do.
Ellis, I think I'm gonna pass this off to Wes also, and if you'll wait till after this meeting, he'll address that. I think you're going to find that the pruning issue is kind of a double-edged sword. But if you wait, that's over. He will get to it. Okay, a little later on tonight, the last thing we'll do, you'll have citizen comments again. That'll give you an opportunity to ask any questions about anything that you may have seen or heard here today. That brings us down to the town manager comments. Town manager, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. The first thing I wanted to do is, some of you may have already met her, but I want to introduce you formally to our new library director, Angie Bates. And I don't know if you want to say anything, you're not, but she's been here for, what, about 3 weeks? She's getting acclimated to everything so far.
Is this where we applaud? Thank you for being here.
Okay, and then just a few other items just wanted to mention. The 150-year committee continues to meet, been meeting on a monthly basis and making big plans. And I know that the chamber actually put something out recently, I think, maybe an email or newsletter or whatever, but the first event to sort of kick off the celebration is a auction on October 9th on Main Street near Woodside Antiques, and you're going to have an item on your agenda a little bit later to address that. More information on all the future events will be released soon. Also, I mentioned last meeting that we received a grant from Electric Cities to totally redevelop our website, and Brian Spehar and I have been talking with a consultant regularly via Zoom meetings, and at this point we had another meeting last week, and they've sort of got the general skeleton framework of the site almost done now, and then they'll start filling in with the content development, and then of course launch after everything is approved by the town. We're still looking at about 2 months out for that to be completed, so everything's on schedule there. And then last thing I wanted to mention, and this has been an every year event. We had a year off due to COVID last year, but the town did get safety awards, as we've had in recent years. Several departments received Gold Award, which is the highest level, and this is given out by the North Carolina Department of Labor, and it recognizes both private and public companies throughout the state that achieve and maintain good safety practices, as evidenced by low incidents of accidents and maintaining good safety records. And over 5,000 employers around the state are considered for these awards, and obviously only a select few receive them. This year, the departments that received awards would be Public Works, Administration, which in this case includes all of our town hall departments, library, recreation, main museum, and utilities department. So they're all receiving gold awards this year, so I just wanted to point that out. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions, Town Manager? Seeing none, that will bring us down to the financial report. It's in your pamphlet. Anybody have any questions about the financial report? Anybody? Seeing none. That'll bring us down to changes, additions, deletions to the agenda. Are there any changes, additions to the agenda? Any? Or is there a motion we accept it as it is and move forward?
I move that we accept it as is.
Dr. Hobbs made a motion we accept the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. We'll move down to the public hearing. Paul, you've got this. It's concerning request for demolition of a structure at 4425 West Moore Street here in town. Paul?
That's correct. The property is Pitt County parcel 03520. This property has been vacant for several years. I really don't know how long. I did not check with finance to see, but it's been vacant for a long time. I sent the first letter on May 10th of 2021 to get assistance to inspect the property. The owner did receive that and signed for it. In fact, he's received 4 such letters and signed for them, but I have not had any communication with him. But I did the inspection on June the 2nd, and since nobody was there to assist with getting into the property, I just did it from outside the property. And I found broken windows, the house is not secured, the roof has damage, there's overgrown vegetation, and I suspect that the electrical, plumbing, and probably mechanical systems all need to be upgraded. I do have pictures, but in lieu of COVID and stuff, I'm not passing stuff out too much right at this point. But if you do, I do have them if you want to see them. At this time, I'm asking permission to move forward with the condemnation process.
Okay. Anybody have any questions of Mr. Ellis at this time? Any questions? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this is your opportunity. Anyone wishing to speak to the demolition of the property at 4425 West Moore Street, this is your opportunity. Anyone? Seeing none, I'll close this public hearing. Paul, I'll ask you to come back to the podium. Any questions, comments, or motions concerning the demolition of the said property?
And I will point out that they have 90 days after tonight's action before we actually take it down.
Okay.
So,
Any questions and/or motion?
I make a motion to give them permission for demolition of the house on 4425 West Moore.
Commissioner Smith has made the motion that we approve the request of demolition of said property. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. Thank you, Paul. That brings us down for the item for consents. Board, you have it in your pamphlet. Any questions, any changes, or a motion to approve the items for consent? Is there a motion?
I make a motion we approve the consent items.
Commissioner Dix has made a motion that we approve the consent items. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the ayes have it. That brings us down for items of discussion and decisions. David, I think you're going to have item number 4. It's temporary closing Main Street between Wilson and Church Street for the 150th anniversary celebration. Part of that is the auction, which they are hoping will become an annual thing. Town Manager?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is related to the auction, as the Mayor just stated. The auction is going to be, they're going to need part of Main Street for seating and display of items. This is the block between Church and Wilson Street, and it's just between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. And this is a Saturday night, October 9th, so it shouldn't really affect your retail businesses. Most of them will be closed by then. It's hoping that the restaurants that are on that block will actually benefit from bringing those folks down there. So this is, since it is a state road, we're required to request DOT to close that.
Any questions of David? Any comments and/or motion? October the 9th. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Is there a motion?
I move that we temporarily close Main Street between Wilson and Church on October the 9th for 150th year's auction.
Commissioner Dixon's made a motion that we close Wilson and Church for the auction. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the ayes have it. Thank you for that, David. That'll bring us down to a report and update on the town comprehensive land use plan. Justin Oates, good luck with this and come on down.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Just wanted to give you a brief update this evening on where we are with the update to our land use plan. As most of you are aware, we started work back in early June with Stewart Consulting Group out of Raleigh to update the town's land use plan. Since we started work with them, we've made a lot of good progress in the early stages. Back in June, we had Stewart's team come down to meet with us as well as some of the department heads. Planning department, we gave the consultants a tour of town, showed them some of the things that we're highlight they're really proud of. Also looked at some areas of interest and concern moving forward that we want to address with the land use plan. Following that, they took about a month to kind of go back and recap the notes from our meetings that day. In the time since then, they've come back to town and have done a series of stakeholder meetings, 6 in total, as well as a steering committee meeting. And we've met with a number of different groups here in town. We've met with everyone from surrounding local governments, economic development officials, the schools, Parks and Rec, really anyone and everyone we can bring to the table to get their input on kind of what their thoughts are of current conditions in town and what they kind of see the future growth in Farmville being. Those were very, very productive meetings. I know a couple of you sat down on those meetings that day. We also had a very good steering committee meeting, the first one for that group that night following the stakeholder meetings. So now we're shifting sort of from this early data collection, sort of getting a tenor for what's going on in the town to more of the public input phase of the plan. So actually coming up this Wednesday, we are going to launch a public input survey for the land use plan. I will be sending out an email to everyone. This survey will be online. Eventually, later in the month, we'll also have it in paper format for those who would rather fill it out and drop it off at Town Hall. But this will be available online. We plan on posting it to our department's social media as well as the town's social media and the town website. And of course, we'll have another meeting in a couple of weeks with the consultants to talk a little more about how we can get this out and let it reach the most people, try to get as much input as we can. So like I said, that will be coming out here in the next few days. Additionally, something if you want to put on your calendar, and I'll send a reminder out to you as well, we will hold our first public input meeting for the plan. That's going to be on Wednesday, October the 20th at the Farmville Public Library, and it will run from 5 until 7. So like I said, that's a little ways out, so I will send out a reminder to everyone. But that meeting will just be a floating, come and go meeting just for citizens to give their input as well as get a little more information on exactly what the land use plan does and the process that goes into it. So, but that's just kind of an update on where we are to this point. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to take those at this time.
On the October the 20th, you'll have the lead on that?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Anybody get questions of Justin? Justin, any update on where our population may be with the last census? Any indicators there yet?
Well, the census numbers did come out. I do not have them in front of me at this time. I do know, unfortunately, we actually, according to the census, we did lose a little bit of population, which my concern with that, honestly, Pitt County did not grow. I don't have, again, without the numbers directly in front of me, but I know Pitt County's growth was substantially lower than I think what many suspect. I think the overall growth of the county was only at about 1.5%. I suspect that COVID-19 had a lot to do with it in terms of, especially if you look at Greenville's population. I think some of the concern there was a lot of students that had shifted, already back home, because the collection for the census takers going out was right about the time COVID-19 shut down the university. So I know that's speaking to Pitt County as a whole, at large. I think that may contribute to why the increase was smaller than I think many people expected. I think you could probably say the same for Farmville. I think just unfortunately with the time that the census was taking place, given COVID-19, it may have potentially impacted some of those numbers. But we didn't see growth. Like I said, it was a very small decrease. Again, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can send it out. I know those numbers just come out last week, but unfortunately, we did not see growth.
You would think as many houses and opening up 86 dwellings that it would have peaked a little bit there.
Yeah.
So, anybody else got any questions? Bert, didn't you have something?
Yeah, your steering committee, does that report to the planning board, and why do you have a steering committee? Who's that composed of?
So the steering committee has there's a variety of members on the steering committee, and yes, that board, they won't report directly to the planning board. Eventually the consultants will come in at a couple of points during the planning process to give an update, but the steering committee kind of comprises, a number of individuals. I know on the steering committee we have a couple of commissioners. There's several planning board members that are actually on the steering committee. We also have a couple of members that are on the steering committee that are from other advisory boards here in town. So we try to have a variety of individuals from a variety of different backgrounds that are on that committee. That committee really sort of pushes the development of the plan. So a lot of the input that you get from the stakeholder meetings, like I know you participated in one of the stakeholder meetings that day. A lot of that information, once it's compiled by the consultant, and we go over, that's funneled back to the steering committee, and that's really leads to a lot of the discussion that the steering committee has, and helps the consultants to actually develop. When we start getting into a point later in the plan to start developing some of the goals and objectives, that group will kind of help lead in the development of some of those goals and objectives. Eventually, it does all go back before the planning board, and I know there will also be a updated to this board later further down the process. But that steering committee sort of takes the lead and sort of taking that information that you get, and again they'll take the information from the public survey that's coming up as well, and they kind of disseminate that information and put it into goal and objective form, working with the consultants.
Anybody else? Justin, thank you for that. No action is required on that. Look forward to seeing you on the 20th. That'll be an informative meeting. That brings us down to citizen comments. Anybody having any questions or concerns about anything you've heard here tonight? Anybody having any questions or concerns of anything that you've heard here tonight? Anybody? Seeing none, that'll bring us back to the Board of Commissioners, and thank you all for coming. With that being said, I'll start with Dr. Hobbs. Dr. Hobbs, any closing comments for tonight?
Well, I just want to say I am very excited about what's happening in Farmville. I get calls from out of town complimenting what we are doing during a pandemic. And if we can do this during a pandemic, it's no telling what we can do after the pandemic. But I think as long as we all work together, we're going to achieve great things for Farmville. And I want to thank everyone who's playing a role in making that happen.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Dixon?
I like what Commissioner Hobbs said so much I can't top it.
Thank you. Mr. Shack?
Again, I think Ms. Hobbs taking care of everything that we need to say tonight, and I believe that we're doing a great job right here in our own town, and we're just proud of our people, our citizens.
Mr. Ellis? Thank you, sir.
I'm just very thankful for our employees. They go over and above, and I appreciate it.
Commissioner Smith?
No, I'll echo what Commissioner Hobbs said, and then I also would like everyone or encourage everyone to be careful with the reoccurrence or emergence of COVID. I think it is something to be concerned about. I think everybody's being careful. I see everybody in here with masks on, but I think it's something that we do have to be careful of, and it's good to be from Farmville.
Thank you, sir. A couple of things. I want to thank everybody that volunteered and came to the information meeting that we had for the 150th anniversary that we planned for 2022. There were several meetings, and a lot of folks came and listened, and we got a lot of ideas. Everyone in town was invited to be a part of that, and it boiled down to 5 or 6 different folks taking the lead, from the fireworks on the first Friday in Farmville to a gala event to the day of prayer and the auction. So we have some things in place that if it keeps going, David, the town of Farmville itself will not have any investment in this. It'll all be private funds that fund it all. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is that a fair statement? And that's what we wanted to do, to make it for the town of Farmville. And the way we're going with this, there should be something for everyone, and Commissioner Elks has agreed on February the 12th that is our actual 150th anniversary, and Commissioner Elks is chairing the committee to give us one of her famous parades on that day. So that will be a lot of fun. There'll be a day of prayer. My dear friend Jeffrey Fields is going to do that for us on the Saturday after the Christmas parade. We're going to have that. I'm hoping that Linda King will be able to do her national night out in some way, but just a few things that are going on there. Second thing, and Wes, I'm glad you're here, because I'm going to speak to you and hope you'll take this back to all the employees. There's not a week that goes by that somebody does not come visit this town for one reason or another. And the first thing they talk about is how clean our town is. They talk about how our downtown is just thriving and how we're doing. And you would be commended for that. And on that note, Miss Ellis, thank you for coming by and talking about those trees, because those are some things that we look at and on ways that we can help people. Naturally, we can't go on private property and do it, but if it's anything that falls under what Wes can do, he and his team have done a great job, as well as our other employees. There's 60-some employees, and they've just all been doing a great job in what they've been doing. So I thank you for the clean town. Southern Cities was just here, right, David? Right. Doing a great job. We've got a couple of articles coming out in statewide magazines about our town, and we certainly have drawn a lot of attention, as Commissioner Smith alluded to, and I am thrilled with that. And as Dr. Hobbs said, we did all this during the COVID. When other people went into a COVID bunker, we put our foot on the gas and have really done some great things. But it's been the commitment from the employees and the leadership from the town management. With that being said, I would hope that the town manager and department heads will get together and figure out a way and figure out what we need to do as far as securing the town hall again. Is, if you remember, over a year ago, the first thing we did is protect our headquarters. And if that means wearing masks the whole time you're in this building, I hope that we will see a directive on that, because I do want to take care of the employees. And Chief, I know that you got a lot going over there in your department. You keep those fellas safe. You keep them distanced there. But I'll leave that up to y'all, and I look forward to a memo to share with all the commissioners about how we're taking care of our employees. And by that I mean plenty of hand sanitizer, plenty of masks, and everything that our employees need. We're going to take care of it. The next thing is, I want to commend the board. 14 years here, and I remember coming and sitting here to midnight, later than midnight a lot of times, having to put things off to come to another time, and to go on and on and on. And the reason we're able to be so efficient in these board meetings and sit in front of the citizens of Farmville and answer questions and have things in place is because of the amount of time that you folks spend at town hall, the amount of telephone calls you take, and the amount of time that you spend out there in the field, boots on the ground, and the time you spend with the citizens of Farmville. And I cannot imagine anybody saying that I can't get my hands on a commissioner or I can't get an answer because you folks have been so active and been so prepared to come to these meetings. And for that, I am thankful. My dear friend John Spruill here tonight, he and I were getting ready to go to the Gulf War about 30 years ago on this very night. Selected NCOs knew that we would be leaving, and John happened to be one of those, and we carried that burden for quite some time. So with that being said, my friend John Spruill served in with 101st Airborne Division in Vietnam. He served with the 2nd ASB in the 3rd Army in the Gulf War, and if he needs a lid on his trash can, I'm done. With that being said, is there a motion we go home?
Motion that we go home.
Second, third, whatever. Y'all ready to go? All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank y'all.